No sound.
Got no sound? Can't hear us?
Can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me? Arnell? Arnell? All right, all right, all right, all right. Welcome to the round table. We got some extraordinary speakers here, man. Excluding myself, right? I'm just a talker, right? So I'm going to start with the screen. We got Arnell up there in Florida.
Peace, peace,
Poets,
peace.
founder of Poets of the Realm. You gotta know his mic up. I mean, his volume at his house. Wherever he's at. Yeah, the Lord of Life.
Why is this going right here? TV, the volume, that's
Yeah, I got it.
down down the TV. Sorry, got it. So where's his audio come from?
Oh my God, what just happened? I touched the TV. That's what happened. This is you.
Which one is it on?
This is it. I got it. This is one. Never, never ever allow to control the value on anything. How about now? Can you hear me? Still can hear us? Arnell?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, good. That's good. All right, so most of the round table, we had a few technical difficulties. We started a little bit late, but hopefully this conversation sparks some thoughts and get everything going. I want to introduce Arnell. Like I started in the beginning as a founder member of Poets Film. Out there in Miami. Nah. Fort Myers, Florida. There you go. Okay, and then we got Sonic Quell right here. You already know him. He should be a founder member of Poets around. He's been here since day one, and influence. Man, that needs no introduction. We can get right into it. He's the CT member of Poets Around Poets From. I'm sorry about that. Did I say that right? I ain't doing no justice to that, but that's not at all.
Oh, that's not important, bro.
All right, let's get into it. So Quill gonna take over and make it pop. Let's go.
Peace, y'all. Welcome. So today's topic at Poets of the Round Table, going to be covering just thoughts and feelings and just some open conversation around manhood, fatherhood, and freedom. So I guess the best way to open that up, I figured we just go around and talk about what those terms mean to us, what manhood means, what fatherhood means, and freedom. So
Okay.
who'd like to start as far as what does manhood mean to you?
Manhood to me is it's a funny term for me because it encompasses a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? Manhood to me is being responsible, being honest. Manhood to me is standing up not only when things are going good, but standing up when things are going at their worst. It's being a part of a community. It's being accountable. All these things encompasses manhood. Um, and manhood isn't something that it's not innate. It's something you have to grow into. It's something that you learn every day. Like my manhood is not at its 100 power yet because I still have stuff to learn, stuff that my father knew when he passed away at 70. I still have yet to learn. His manhood was a lot greater than mine. Um, so manhood is a continuum of growth, understanding, and gaining knowledge of self. That's what manhood is to me.
Peace.
Appreciate that. But now you want to give your insight or your feelings on what you believe manhood is?
Okay, yeah. I definitely agree with influence on everything that he just said. I shadowed that. I also want to add that it's to me it's being able to be vulnerable, being able to accept help, being able to accept criticism and such to grow. So always being open to ideas, to suggestions, to being able to put myself in a position to grow as a man. And so, manhood to me does mean yes, being strong, being able to provide for my family, being able to guide my children on a positive path, making sure that they see people as equals. Color barriers shouldn't be there. Accept that person for who they are, who they show you they are. And so it's a continued growth for me. That's manhood.
Let's appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
What do you think it's time?
So, I agree with both brothers, man. I mean, I'm gonna say it like this, right? Every conversation opens doors for you to step into your manhood. Every conversation, every day you open your eyes. I have this saying where when you wake up in the morning, you have a chance to hit the reset button. That's your chance to hit the reset button and fix things that you did wrong the day before, and or expound on or get better with the things that you already do well, right? So I had a conversation earlier today. Like a lot of times, you recognize things from other people's perspective, right? You recognize things from other people's perspective, and I mean, from you watch people and you see people and you learn things. But then when people tell you about who you are, right? You have to be man enough. You have to swallow that joint and be man enough to eat that so you can be a better person, right? Because you don't always see your wrong. You don't always see your problems and your issues and the things that you have to work on. So manhood to me is recognizing that you have issues, right? Like every human being, that's common that you have issues, um, and those issues aren't always recognized by you. Being wise enough to listen to somebody else tell you what they see you, how they see you. That doesn't mean they always right? That doesn't mean they always right. But the ones that have your best interests at heart, they always gonna give you a perspective or something to grow on, right? They're not gonna just yes man you and say, oh man, you the best. They're gonna give you something to grow on. So manhood is having the strength and the courage to listen to those that's telling you something, that's going to help you be a better person. You know, um, they have this thing. It's a saying that was, and I want to pass the mic. Right, a man that is not connected to his family is like a tree without roots. Right, a man that is not connected to his family is like a tree without roots. Neither will grow. That's how it ended. Neither will grow. Right. Like I grew up, my example of men was kind of shaky. So when you see me in society, or you see me and I have a conversation and everything, it doesn't come out perfect and well groomed and well put together, it's because I'm a man in work. I'm a man in progress. I'm growing. So manhood is growth.
Peace. Peace.
Yes, sir. I like that a man not connected to his family is a man with no roots, right? It's like a tree with no roots, right? Um, Even like asking, the question, what manhood means to you guys. I struggle with the answer, from my own perspective. The way I see things is like there's no one way, to be a man. There's no, it's I feel like it's different, in a lot of circumstances for every man. They have their own individual situations that they can apply manhood to. Um, so when you say like a man not connected to his family is like a tree with no roots, it brings me to uh, thought and feelings that I was having recently. That So me being a father, me be coming from a family, and then starting my own family, and then I have family members on my father's side of the family, and I'm kind of away from all of them. Like the family that I was born in, they live in the South. My father's side of the family, I didn't know them growing up, so I met them, as I was growing up, I met them, but I'm not really familiar with them. You know what I mean? So it's like it's interesting dynamic. And then now, with the family that I created, it's like I'm a part of it, but not really, because my son's mom and I aren't together anymore. So we're connected, yes, but there's this that's there, like this divide that's there. So I have these three families that I'm a part of and connected to, but there's still this distance, between me and them. So, I was struggling with the thoughts and the emotions behind, not having or not feeling those roots. You know what I'm saying? So it was just interesting that you said that, because I was like literally like sitting in that and really trying to figure that out.
Now, do you feel less of a man
You say,
because of that?
let's deal with the family with your son. When you say that you're not connected, I don't understand what that means, because it depends on what your idea of connectivity is. Because being connected don't necessarily, now mind just two sides to this, but connected, if you don't have a choice, if you can't help it, does not mean being in place, but it means being present. So there is a connection that is there, which I seen with my own eyes dealing with you and your son when you brought them to the slam. Um, so my question to you would be, how do you feel you may not have those roots, even if you're not connected to your extended family? The only one that has to be your family at this point right now is your son. And from what I've seen, you have roots.
No, go ahead. That's dope though. Because he was like, no, for real. But like, so okay. So you mentioned like being distant from your family, right? And he mentioned how you can say you don't have roots when he's seen a relationship between you and your son, right? It reminded me of this plant, right? It's a plant that comes from like Africa. They call it the plant of life, right? My man, my man, he had this plant. He had these plants, and he grew them, and he put them in a book, right? He had it in his book, right? It had no light, no water, no nothing. He left it there. He opened the book, right? Later on, and it started rooting itself. Like the plant itself withered and died, but it fed the root so it can continue to grow. And plants came from a leaf came, and then a plant came, and then whatever, right? So I'm just like, when you said that, it just hit home because I never met my father. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, like somebody could be walking down the street right next to me, and I wouldn't even know that was my dad. I mean, to this day, like as a grown man, like I never even inquired. Like, you know what I'm saying? That was not my thing. Like I had my mom, right? I had my grandmother, I had my family. You know what I mean? So in a way, I made a statement. This is why I wanted to say something, because I made that statement. I quoted that quote, right? A man that's not connected to his family is like a tree without roots. But what defines family, right? Because I'm growing, man. I'm growing. I didn't have the root of my father, but I'm growing. I feel like I'm growing. I want to feel like that.
No, definitely. Just to see if I can answer the question properly. Um, so like everybody who knows me knows how I move with my son. Like he's everything. You know what I mean? And he is my connection, to um the family, that I created. But I guess it's my struggle is I guess the way the dynamic is set up, like I'm not there. I guess there's terms that are applied, like primary, secondary, things like that. You know what I mean? So, he's with his mom majority of the time. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm not there for the day to day, the little moments where you plug yourself into to those teaching lessons. Like you don't really get those until you know you're present, like physically present. Um, we talk every day. If I'm not on the phone with him, I'm at the house. Like we get along fine. There's no drama, none of that. You know what I mean? But and I'm always welcome. But it's like I said, the day to days, like you don't hear the feet hit the ground when you get out of the bed and come running to the room, or you're not there for the just the little moments where he might say something that he really shouldn't have said, and I step in and like, hey, that's not how you move. You know what I mean? Those day-to-day things that you feel disconnected from because you're not present for those. You know what I mean? So I guess that's where a lot of my just trying to understand my roots and my connection to to that. Like I'm not I don't want to sound like I'm like discrediting, my place. You know what I'm saying? Because I know like I'm very present. I'm there for him. You know what I mean? But because it's not in that traditional sense, you know.
Um, can I jump in real
That's why
quick?
I said that there was two sides to it. Because when I had, well, when my wife had my had my daughters, right? Um, Given the fact that my biological father was never in my life, really, um, I vowed something to myself. I vowed that no matter whatever happened in my life, no matter how the relationship was going to go, somehow, some way, I had to make it work, or I had to deal with some stuff because I never wanted to be in a position where I couldn't walk in the house and kiss my kids, no matter what time I came in the house. That's why I said there's another side to it. But my main point for you was the fact that I seen the work that you put in. So I wanted you to understand that you do have those roots. And I had to learn later. I have a cousin that wasn't in the home with his four children, but I watched this man raise his four children. And then when they got older, they came to him to finish off teaching them. You know what I'm saying? But in the beginning, he wasn't there. So I've seen that side of it. But for me personally, I took the route of, regardless of what happened, I may be sleeping on the couch. No matter what happened, I'm gonna be there in the house with my babies. For me, that's what it was for me. You know what I'm saying? That was my situation. That's why I said it was two sides to that. I just wanted to know your, why you felt about the connection that you felt.
No, I thought you were about to say something.
Yeah. You know, for me, similar situation where my first child, I didn't get along with her mother. We spent the first 16 years battling and just going back and forth. It was just ridiculous, right? And so my daughter actually grew up, essentially with her. However, I had my daughter every weekend. That was our time. We did our thing then. Um, when I moved away to the DC area, I brought her down for the whole summer, and I brought my nephew with her just so that she could have a companion there that she could play with and things of that nature. Now, years go by, and it seems like a lot of those memories are lost on my daughter right now. You see what I'm saying? Um, right now, we haven't spoken on since January. Um, and it's she's holding on to, I'm not exactly sure, but a couple memories of me not showing up when she was a child. So those memories that she is fighting with right now supersedes everything else that I've done. You see what I'm saying? However, that doesn't make me feel less of a man, a failure as a father. I put in work. I put in work the first 16 years just to be able to see her. And so, um, yeah, circumstances right now is we're not on speaking terms and things of that nature. However, I don't fault myself for any of that. Um, I did my best when I could. And as far as being a man, I know I've stepped up to the plate. I have my kids in the home right now, and I think that's also a part of the venom that my daughter is spewing right now, because at a different phase in my life. I'm not 22 years old anymore. I'm in my 50s now. I've gone through the battles. I've learned a lot, and so the kids in my household now, yes, they see me every day. They're treated just the same as my daughter that didn't grow up in the household. But she can't see it that way because she sees pictures now of us having fun together all the time, and she doesn't get to be a part of that. However, I can't be faulted for that. We're in different states right now. She's a grown woman, but she can't let go of some memories that occurred, and she just put that as I don't know, a wedge between us right now. So, but I don't feel less of a man. I feel very strong. Um, I feel that I've done quite a lot, and I'm just gonna keep pushing until she realizes, that hey, pops was there, and when she's ready to talk, I'm here.
Yeah, I hear you. Um, and it makes sense, like because there's only after a certain point, there's really only so much you can do.
Hmm.
Especially when they're older and they start making their own choices,
Hmm.
see things the way they see things. So it's always just uh, I guess the hope is to the clarity comes about and everyone comes together eventually, and just keep that door open.
Right, right.
Before we move forward, just let me check in with Chief. Chief just tapped in.
Yes.
Father, poet, dean of students, slam champion.
Peace.
Peace, man. How you
Good.
doing? Long time.
What's good, fellas? My bad, man. I guess I was a little too early the first time. Now I'm a little too late, but I made it. I made it to the party, so we here.
Hey man,
Peace.
no worries, man. You can't rush greatness.
I appreciate
Um,
that. I missed the last question though, but I mean, I didn't. I got the consensus of what we were talking about, but what was the exact question?
yeah, no worries. We really just started getting into it. What we were talking about was since today's topic is manhood, fatherhood, and freedom. We were just going over what manhood and what fatherhood means to us, individually, and you tapped in at the right moment. So,
Okay.
manhood and fatherhood mean to you?
I mean, I think for all of us here, being a father is probably the most important part of our being. You know, being able to impart wisdom, discipline, structure, all those good things that you want in a kid's life has got to be one of the most meaningful things bestowed upon a man. You know what I'm saying? So it's everything for me. Like I tell people all the time, my kids are the epicenter of my being, man, and they are they are what moves me, what makes me go, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still do that other stuff I'm not supposed to be doing, but they don't see that. So I'm living the example that I believe they can grow to admire, and traits that, like, if you ask my kids now, like, what's the most important thing your dad ever taught you, I'm pretty sure all of them will have something profound to say, because I believe in my heart I'm doing the right part all the way around the board, all the way across the board for them. So I think just being the representation of what a quote unquote man is in the eyes of, first and foremost your personal beliefs, but then in the eyes of society too. You want to be able to exemplify what it is to be a man for these young people, man. So it's just important to me to lead a life that way, to where they look up and go, my dad was on the straight and narrow. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I tell my kids all the time, no one cares how smart you are, no one cares how talented you are if you're a bad person. People like good people. So at the end of the day, I just want to raise good humans, man.
Mm, peace. Now, I have a question. I have a question real quick. Now, all of us here on this panel, we're all fathers. However, what about the men who are not fathers? What about the men who are homosexuals? Um, how would you guys what I'm saying, define manhood for those individuals? Because to me, I think earlier we touched upon being open to criticism, being open to growth, and things of that nature, and so my answer was pretty much based on thinking of individuals like that who are not fathers and things. So how would you guys touch upon that?
I could, I'll speak to it a bit as best I can. So, like I said, in my answer initially about what manhood means to me, I feel like everybody's experience is going to be different. It's going to be their own. So, in the case, um, like even in that case with homosexual individuals, in my eyes, like if you're this is your experience, in manhood. This is your journey in manhood. You are who you are. For any and every reason, you are who you are, and you have to walk in that. Um, I don't. I was going somewhere with that. Oh, you want to chime? No.
Manhood is the biggest problem we have is that we've allowed society to dictate what manhood means to us.
Mm,
And what they decided manhood was has been tagged on to every single man, whether you agree with that narrative or you don't.
mm,
So it became very difficult for a homosexual male, today's society, transgender male, to be able to define what manhood is to that particular individual, because society says what a man is.
Right.
So the whole entire fight that they have right now is trying to break down those walls to say, well, for me, a man is A, B, C, and D. Now, manhood as being homosexual or being transgender may not be in line with what I feel being a man is. You don't have the right to take my idealism away from me, as if I don't have the right to take your idealism away from manhood from you, because you're going to live your life according to how you feel a man should live. And who am I to tell you that you're wrong? Unless you're hurting someone. You know what I'm saying? But I have to stick true to what manhood means to me, as I stated earlier about what manhood is. Those is what I was raised by my dad to what I believe to be self-evident.
Okay. Peace. Appreciate that, for real. Yeah, I just figure that we don't have a homosexual male on the panel, so I wanted to give an opportunity to their side of what manhood is and things of that nature, and so that was dope.
I think personally speaking, you can't necessarily tag. I don't think being a homosexual makes you any less of a man, like in terms of what, you know what I'm saying, like whether you identify as a woman or you have feministic traits or whatever. I think you can still, like Influence was saying, you still have your interpretation of what manhood means to you, and we have no bounds on taking your interpretation away. So I think you're right. It would be good to get that assessment and just to hear, because society does place a lot of stereotypes onto a homosexual male and may or may not make him feel he's more or less masculine than the heterosexual male. So you know what I'm saying? Like that'd be a good conversation to have with someone who's of that nature.
True.
Right. I feel like it applies to, like, and I'm pretty sure all of us have heard, the term, well, be a man. And it's like, and I've heard it in plenty of situations, maybe because if I'm a soft-spoken person, so it's like, I'll say it with your chest, be a man. It's like, how you move, how you act, the way you are naturally doesn't determine, your place in manhood. So, just like Influence was saying, society applies a lot of these conceptions ultimately, to what manhood is. And then a lot of people feel like they have to try to walk in those lights to be accepted. I got into a point where I really don't care, what anyone else is saying. If I'm soft spoken, or if I'm too gentle with something, or if I'm not this aggressive rah type person, I'm less of a man. Well, like, I don't know who raised you, but I'm gonna need you to open your mind up a little bit.
I feel you. Hey, I ain't got the deepest voice in the world, so come on, man. I feel you. I feel you.
I think like Ernell mentioned earlier, and what you were just saying just now, it's kind of like we grow and learn to kind of push these societal influences to the side. Like as we grow, we want to find our place in society. We want to fit in somewhere. But then we get older, it's like, this is my lane. I found out who I am, and this is what I'm going to represent. And now those societal pressures don't have too much of an effect on us anymore. But as a young man growing up, it's happenstance almost. You have to find your way within the society, and until you grow into who you are, that's when you feel comfortable being like, this is who I am, and this is what my representation of a man means to me. And until you've grown comfortable in that, I think you do find yourself trying to fit in different pockets of society.
I have a transgender brother, as a lot of you may know. I have a poem about Danny. And it was funny because I had a conversation at one point in time. Danny was doing some real reckless things, and I was like, yo, you have 3 role models of what manhood is if you're trying to figure it out, because society had told him, and from what he's seen, that a male is always overly aggressive.
Mm.
A male always deals with situation and violence in a very hard temperament. And I had to take and pull his coattail and be like, yo, listen, that's not how daddy dealt with it all the time. That's not how I dealt with it all the time. That's not how your brother Jerome dealt with it all the time. So now sitting back and looking at Danny for what Danny's showing me is he's looking at life a little different.
Mm.
He's actually coming to the point of finding what manhood means to him. He's not wilding out. He's working. He's trying to get his life plan together. So I've seen it grow from that perspective as well, from Danny being my little sister growing into my brother, in how he's adapting to his own idealisms of what manhood is in that journey that he's had to go through. Now I dealt with the other side too. My best friend was my uncle, and he was gay. And I watched him be a gay male, but be a man at the same time.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So, like Chief was saying, like, I don't know if you can say, well, because he's gay, he's not a man. My uncle can sew, cook, do everything he wanted to do, but he did everything that I look at as being masculine oriented, manly. So I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm like you. Some things I do very gentle, and some things I don't.
Mm.
Um, but we can't define what we have. Well, we have to define what manhood is for ourselves. And
True.
that's the bottom line.
Peace.
Yeah, so like I spoke about earlier, like my example of manhood wasn't that it wasn't that good. Like it wasn't great. These guys didn't. Most of these guys didn't even know what it was like to be a man. They was learning. They was figuring it out as they went along. So they was teaching me what they was trying to figure out. And we thought the more women you had, the more money you had, the more fights you won. These things define you as a man, right? So you grow up with these ideas, right? And you begin to project them into your manhood until you reach that stage you guys are talking about. Some never make it, but to lead into like freedom, right? Because this conversation is that I think Arnell opened the door to kind of like discuss freedoms, right? When he spoke about what defines a manhood, what defines a man, and what does manhood look like to individuals that society said aren't really men, right?
Right.
Because they're gay, because of their lifestyle, right? Freedom, right? Freedom is not something that someone no one can't teach you to be free, right? It's when you step into the reality or the realization that you are who you are because this is what society needed at that time, or this is what your family needed at that time, not because you're forcing your way. For instance, you take someone like the brother, you know, he went from he watched him. I watched her. I start as a female, right, and then transition into a man, right. So society try to box you in and say you're weird, you're different, you're strange, you're something out of the ordinary, right? But his brother, this person has the same natural zeal for life, like if it was a female or a male, man. Like this person is a good person. Like talk about raising good people. If you're a good person, it doesn't matter what if you wear a dress or you wear pants. But prison, right? Prison isn't defined by four walls, right? It's a state of mind. If you buy into the concept that your manhood exists only in the walls of what society say a man is, or what a man looks like, then you become a prisoner, and your freedom is lost. You got to define your own self. You got to define your own self, however hard it is, because it's very difficult in this world to look at people and be your own self, man. Like, and be your own self, and people look at you, right, and say that you're weird, right? Because I grew up in a neighborhood where you had to learn how to fight, or you had to learn how to run real fast. Either one, like, you know. And then you grow up and you like, yo, hold up. I don't have to drink in order for you to be my friend. I don't have to smoke, and I don't have to beat people up every day, and I don't have to carry a gun and threaten people in order for you to respect me. Like, if you don't respect me because I don't carry a gun, right? That's okay. I got a million other people that will love me for being who I am. And when you reach that stage, that's when you reach freedom, right? But society will lock you up. Society will lock you up if you let it, right? If you let it, it'll tell you, what are you doing? You're supposed to wear a dress or high heels. You're supposed to wear a dress or high heels, and you know, be free, be you, man. If you're happy being, if you want to be, if you want to make that transition from female to male or male to female, that's your decision. That's your decision, man. I mean, manhood and the absence of it has nothing to do with how you dress or what you look like. You know what I mean? That's my opinion.
I concur. I think you ended off on a good note, and I think we talk about so much of what manhood is. I think it's important to talk about what it's not, because oftentimes people attach that manhood to that machismo, to the tough, you know what I mean, to the tough guy, to the chest poked out, to the aggressive, you know what I mean. And I just think my daughter 2 summers ago. Quick story. Kids playing ball in the yard with a little bouncy ball. The ball bounces into the neighbor's yard. The neighbor takes the ball, walks like 30 yards, and puts it in the trash can in his yard. And I'm just like, yo, what kind of person are you? So I go over there and I'm like, yo, I'm going to get the ball. So as I go over there, he like tries to put his hands on me. And I just slap his hands down and keep walking to the garbage. When I slapped his hands down, my daughter for the first time like saw me being aggressive and like was frantic for like 5 hours after that. Like she had never seen the aggressive side of her father. So like I want to say like low key traumatized my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Man. But like this dude, just like kids playing the ball bouncing yard, give it back to him. This dude took it and put it in the trash can. It's like, come on, man. Like I wasn't trying to go start no trouble, but I wasn't about to let him treat these kids like that. Right. But I say that to say, like, that was the first time my daughter saw me being aggressive. And to some people, that was a man's move. But my baby girl had never seen that aggressive part. So to her, societal, and to her, that's not what a man is. Or that's not to what she's been shown to that point. That didn't represent a man. Before that moment, if you asked her what a man was, she'd probably use all kind of other softer words because of the way her father treats her. You know what I'm saying?
First time my kids actually see me be aggressive, it was traumatizing to them as well, because they have always known me to be, for those who don't know it, I'm a silly dude. I like to play pranks and stuff like that on my kids and stuff like that. And the first time they seen me, seeing daddy be who daddy used to be, someone was doing something to my mom, and it was a whole big thing, and it was threatening my mom's, and I wasn't having it. And that's the first time they actually see me threaten to take a life at that point. And my oldest and my baby was crying. They was like, daddy, no. And they're locked in the car. I made the mother lock them in the car. Was like, because this is, and the look on their faces after I lost it in front of them was like the worst feeling I ever had in my life, because now I exposed them to a whole life that I tried to put away um previous to them being born, and now they've seen it. Um yeah, that was a hard thing for me to deal with as a father. To know that, again, in my growth of being a father and as being a man, not to be able to control my temper. Because in hindsight, I could have told my mother to get in the car, close her in, let her drive off. I could have gotten my vehicle with my wife and my children. I could have drove off and never engaged into the foolery that was dealing at that time, but I didn't. And I caused a level of trauma for my children, to where if I even decide to get a little agitated, they're looking like, daddy's, this is about to be a problem. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, but I got a question for y'all. Like, talking about fatherhood, we all, I think Ernell has the oldest children of all of us, if I'm not mistaken. My oldest is 20.
31.
Yeah, so you definitely got the oldest out of all of us.
Hey, before we
Yeah, he said
before
31. But when you're in my experience being a father, there's levels to being a father. You have the father where you've dealt with as a baby. You have the daddy. The First of all, let me make a statement before that. To me, if you are doing foolery and you have a baby and it don't change you, there's a problem. Once you have a child, it should automatically change your perspective, your idealisms, and even if you don't mature instantly, it should be a progressive move towards being more productive and being for that child's life. That's first thing. But can you guys go through how you felt when you were a new father with the baby being born, to then having to start teaching lessons when they become toddlers, and the progression? Because um anyone who's watching or listening, and even me, or no, you could tell me something. Like I said, I have a daughter that's 21 and one that's 18. So I'm embarking on new things all the time. And what I've realized is, most of all, that being a parent and parenting is more pertinent after they turn 16 than it is before. Because the lessons that they're engaging in are like way harder. I'm finding I rather deal with your 15-year-old situations than deal with these damn situations I'm dealing with now. Um, so just talk about the progression of being a father.
well, for me, really, um, I'm just gonna go back to what you said before. You and Chief saying that you guys, never really displayed, aggression and so forth. I was the opposite. I grew up in Jamaica until I was 14. I was always the smallest one in the group. I always had to be tough, be in fights. Went to Hartford High, and it was a lot of fights because I was Jamaican. It was a lot of fights because I had to defend my sister. So I was aggressive. I was a very aggressive dude. Um, that's one of the reasons why I joined the Marine Corps, because I was searching for discipline. I was searching for, something that would curb my aggression, or I guess fuel my aggression in the Marine Corps. Hoorah, we're the roughest, we're the toughest, we're the fighting machine, we're killing machines, and that's how I was. So when I had my daughter at 22, I was still in that I'm rough, I'm tough mode. So I showed her kindness. I was very gentle with her and things like that. However, I was not as tolerant with her as I am with my kids now when she misbehaved or when she didn't do something that she said she was supposed to do. I was tough on her. I was tough on her. Now, not always. I hit her 3 times in her whole life, right? But although I only hit her 3 times, I was still tough on her in regards to schoolwork and all of that stuff, trying to be a good father, making sure that she was the best at everything. And so it was years later that that anger inside of me started to curb, and I started to get control of that anger. And so me blowing up in front of someone, at someone in front of my daughter was nothing. Her mother was like that. She was Jamaican. She smacked me, you know. Um, and so my daughter, pretty much, now I think about it, she was around, a lot of aggression. And so um, that definitely has something to do with how she is right now, her relationships and things of that nature. So with aggressive parents, we definitely uh, we definitely damage her to a certain degree. You know what I mean? And take responsibility for that. She is in therapy and such. I'm in therapy myself, and for me, it's every day trying to be that good person, that better person. So it's to flip the script. It's not like I was out there robbing and stealing, but I was violent. I was aggressive. You say the wrong thing to me, I'm throwing my fist first, and that's how it was. So I've learned. I've grown up. Don't get me wrong. I still have a fiery temper at times, and I could still come at you, but I will think before I act nowadays.
I think appreciate you sharing that story, man. I think also a huge part of fully encompassing manhood is accepting that responsibility and taking onus of that, man, because we don't know what we don't know. And as we get older, we look back at it and go, yo, we probably imparted a lot of that trauma on our child. You know what I'm saying? And we again, I read some other day and it said like parents, children don't realize they're watching their parents grow up. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
As much as we think we're, assisting them, like we're developing ourselves too. So it's interesting to just to hear you reflect on some of those things and like take and own it. And that's a huge part of, falling into the true essence of manhood, accepting responsibility for your faults, man.
thanks, man. Profound words. Thank you.
I had I don't know, a bit of a gear shift when my son was born. You know, before before I became a father, it's like, I'm still my son was born, I was 27, and I consider myself a bit of a late bloomer. I'm still trying to figure out life, figure out what I want to do with it, figure out what, future is going to look like. I didn't really, I was still trying to work it out, but when my son was born, it kind of put a lot of things into high gear. It put a lot of thoughts and, like, all right, it's really, time to figure out, things, because now you have this person, that you have to look after. And I wasn't, my father wasn't around um, when I was, born. I was raised by my grandparents, and I come from a Jamaican background. Both my grandparents are country Jamaican. Like, they came from Jamaica, they came to this country, and they wanted to do better and make better for their children. So they raised their four, and then my mother joined the military, and my grandmother told her to leave us home, and they'll take care of us while she does her thing to get herself in order. So we were raised by you know real Jamaican grandparents. So they weren't around for none of the BS. Like, it was you're gonna go to school, you're gonna handle your business and all that. But it's weird. Like, as we got older, um, every family has their dysfunctions and things that that they didn't necessarily plan on. So my grandparents divorced at some point towards the end of high school for me, and like anyone else, you're towards the end of high school and you're starting to come into you know where you're trying to figure out who you are and who you want to be and all that stuff. So at that point, my grandfather wasn't in the house anymore. So it was like that time where you're transitioning from boyhood to manhood, where those examples weren't very present. Like, we had our uncles and, my uncle's friends and all that, who you called uncle. So, they had their gems and, things to instill here and there. But like, nobody can replace, actual roles of the people who are supposed to be in them. Your father has a space on the family tree. If it's empty, it's empty. Everybody else can submit all the info and all the help that they want to help. But if that space is empty, it means something. You know what I mean? So I took a lot of his absence with me as far as how I apply my life to my son. And I didn't really think about it until, afterwards, but it's like, it's one of the reasons I go so hard for him, because I don't want him to have that, or have, feel that absence, or have anyone else trying to make up for that space, in the that missing space in the family tree or whatever. So it's like, I don't know. It's just, it's part of the drive. You know what I'm saying? It adds to it. It intensifies it.
Okay.
As I'm listening to you, dog, I'm reflecting back on my own personal life, and kind of tapping on what Ernell just talked about, and how I just mentioned how the things that he was doing with his ex as a part of how it transcended into his daughter. I don't think our family members recognize or know that their actions impart on us. And I say that because recently I had a conversation on Facebook with my people about whether a woman should propose to a man, and we got into whole proposal thing. And then someone inboxed me and was like, why don't you, what are your thoughts on it? And I was just like, well, I'm old school and traditional values and whatnot. And part of my explanation was my grandma had 9 kids and none of them were married until my mom got married when I was like 22. So growing up, it was natural for me to see, you meet a girl, you get together, you live together, you have kids, and there was no weddings around. You know what I'm saying? So as for me, when I had my baby, when I found out I was having my first kid, y'all, I'm running through the car dealership screaming. Like, I got a picture of I'm ecstatic. At no point in my mind did I think to marry this woman. At no point in my mind. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't because I wasn't in love with her. It wasn't because, we had a great relationship. It just wasn't something that I was shown. I wasn't given that, that guideline. I wasn't shown this is what a man, quote unquote, a man is supposed to do. So it was interesting to kind of to look back at it and go, you know what? I know I was grown at the time. I was mature. I was a man, but I go, that probably played a big part in why I didn't take that step. It was never something that was like imparted in me. And now it's like something I yearn for. But then it wasn't even a thought. So it's kind of bugged out. You know what I'm saying? How we pull these things from different family members that, that we see or we don't see.
Deep.
Peace. Hey, Chief.
I saw you laughing. Right?
I'm real tight, yo. The audio went out, yo. I'm looking at you. He's going in, and I know Ernell heard you, because Ernell he was locked in, but us down here, like, we didn't get none of the audio, bro.
All right, so I could run it back. What I was just saying was kind of piggybacking on what you said, is what we don't realize is kind of what the things that we're taught or we're not. Can you still got me?
I still got you, but it looked like we lost them again.
No, I think it just cut to like me talking or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So you were just talking about how, like, the things that we're taught or we're not taught via family. Like I was saying, my grandma had 9 kids and none of them were married. So growing up, it was natural for me to see a man meet a woman, they get together, they love each other, they have babies, life progresses, but there was no marriage around. So when I had my first kid at 31. You said 27. My daughter was born 2 days before my 31st birthday. And at no point was I thinking about marrying her mom. Not that I didn't love her, not that we weren't happy. It was just something that I look back at it going, it was just never something that was exemplified for me or like steps for me to follow. So we had a baby, we moved in together, everything was great. Clearly things broke up, whatever. But at the time, looking back at it now, I'm like, yo, had I been given that guideline, not that marriage would have saved us, but it could have. I mean, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So it was just something like, we don't know what we don't know, and our peers or parents or our guides around us don't know what they're teaching us subconsciously, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I feel you. Definitely. You want to speak to that? Because I know, like, this is like poets of the round table. So, I know y'all got some work on you. I got some work. I want to share it. And it kind of goes along with the question we're answering, but I want to add to it a bit and see if you guys can answer it. So the question would be, how are you guys different from um, the man that you came from? Oh. So I'm gonna give everybody the opportunity to get in on this question, right? But I'm gonna get through my poem first because I feel like my poem just answers the question. So I'm gonna rock with it real quick. I call it sunshine. I am the light between my shadow and my reflection. I've always viewed my shadow as the worst part of me, but I didn't invest much energy into mirrors. But at least I know what I look like. Shadows go unseen without a light to expose it. Since he endured the fun parts of giving me life, it has been nothing more to me than a shadow in the night. Ever since, it's only right that his sun rises to bring that situation to light. And honestly, it's all shade. I bathe in moonbeams for comfort of the night, only to find my shadow lurking at my feet. I guess that's why I chose to live in darkness. A benefit to being blind is you can't see the hurt coming, but the drawback is you can't brace for impact. I tried so hard to disguise the parts of this darkness that exist in me. I sacrificed my glow. Paying ill attention to the brighter sides that shine, I turned a blind eye to the light I had inside. Nightmares of the demons that crept in the dark filled my dream catcher. So I added insomnia to my list of talents. And when you question my lack of sleep, I tell you I'll sleep when I'm dead, as if life's hustle don't grant me the time, because maybe you can't handle the truth, or I just can't handle sharing it. How easy would it be for you to count sheep with monsters chasing them? I'm the suffer in silence type. More times than not, I keep a smiling mask on as I move about existence to keep people from questioning my well being. But some nights, I wake to the voice of my heart spilling from my mouth, while the heat from my agonies melt away at my soul, flowing from my eyes like magma oozing down the side of a volcano. He must have seen me as a demon trying to possess his life, which would add rhyme to the reason why he ran. It seems as if the best way he saw fit to exercise me was cardio. Shadows move just as fast as the light chasing it, so the idea of pursuit was easily discouraged. Besides, the fuck I look like. If you don't want to be here, then don't be. Imagine sitting under your family tree, guarded by its shade, free to pick and be nourished from all but your father's branch. I never truly invested much thought into this until the day I extended my own branch. How selfish was I to think of my lacks during the greatest of my gains, even if it was just for a moment? Then it hit me like a ton of joy. I made a person, and all I could do was smile. I wouldn't even hold him standing up, in fear of my little person slipping between my fingers, like myself and so many others who slip between the fingers of their fathers, or even worse, put down, never to be picked up again, then pops up with even less of a backbone once you're grown and too heavy to be held. Believe me, you're never too grown to want to be held by your dad. What good was giving me your name if your effort, time, and attention didn't accompany it? What was so important out there? It said that sons pay for the sins of their fathers. So I'm doing my best to settle your debts so I don't hand them off to your grandson. Trying to break these generational curses, I have so many broken. I have so many broken. I may have broken the name chain, but it's still your blood that runs in his veins. No, I can't deny his genetics is a bitch. I work my hands to the bones because my hardships and missteps aren't his to bear. My hardships and missteps aren't his burdens to bear. I promise you, he will create plenty of his own. April 15th, 2009, I was granted a great power. And with great power came great responsibility. That day and forever after, I earned the title Daddy. Because I know any man can easily become a father. Shit, that's just when the fun starts. The only moments he will miss me is when I'm out earning for his well-being or making myself a better man for him to look up to. His joys are mine. His hurts are mine. I teach him. I help him. I protect him from now until forever. He is my superpower, and with him, I will do great things. Isn't that something, Pop? An eclipse in your life. Your secret son can teach you how to be the father you've never been. Not discouraged, but inspired by actions you never took. I suffered storms that would timber most, but I still stand tall enough for those who also need healing, bearing fruit for those who care to be inspired. You made a mistress of my reflection and guarded your eyes from the light that came of it. They say it isn't safe to look directly into the sun. Maybe my shine was a bit too bright for you. Our genetics are strong, but this is where you and I differ. I'll go blind before I ever turn my back on mine. Peace. Yo, that poem, it gets harder.
Good stuff.
First of all, bro, wow. Think of everything. He spoke to everything, and he hit so many different things in there. Um, One of my biggest things when you talk about manhood is I spent most of my life trying to be everything my biological father wasn't. The reason why I take care of my kids the way I do is the reason why I take care of my kids the way that I do is because I never want them to feel the pain that I felt for my whole life of feeling like someone didn't want me. Until my dad came along when I was 12, 13 years old, and I fought that. I always thought there was something wrong with me. So when I had the opportunity to have a child, I had the opportunity to have a child. My only goal was to be everything my biological father wasn't. I didn't know how to be a man. I was just trying to be whatever he wasn't to me. Until I learned that my love for them was good enough to be everything I could be for them. That poem, not even that poem, that self-test, that testament of who you are because of who you don't want to be is one of the dopest things about being a father is trying to break the cycle that have plagued black men and black families for generations, for whatever reason, because of fear, because of finances, for so many different reasons. But I feel you 110%. Real quick story, and I'm gonna give it up. When I got married, my biological father, I still wanted him to be a part of my life. I was 20 years old. I sent invitations out to my biological father and his family. They all sent the RSVPs back. 2 weeks before my wedding, he called me outside. My biological father was a hustler as well as a crackhead. He called me outside from where I live with my wife, and I came down the hill to meet him. And he handed me an envelope full of money. And he said, "I can't make it to your wedding. I got to make a trip down to Virginia and come back." And I looked at him and I told him, I said, "Bro, you still don't get it. I don't need or want your money. All I ever wanted was you." And he looked at me and he didn't know what the hell to say. He just stood there. Now, my mama raised me and she ain't raised no fool, so I took that goddamn envelope. But the whole thing of it is that I don't think black men before us really got it, because they did a whole lot of what was done to them. I turned out all right, so my kid's gonna turn out all right too. So it just continued the cycle because they didn't know how to be a father. You know, I could tell you about who my grandfather was. My grandfather spent most of his nights in the after hours playing spades and drinking beer and hustling. And he would give my father a little money and say, "Go about your business." That's how my father grew up. You know, so I'm just proud to break the cycle.
Hey, Chief, now you still with us?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Screen changed. I wasn't sure.
That was dope.
Hold on.
No, we here. Hey, E, what I think we should do is when they're talking, press mute, because that feedback is coming from the TV onto their microphone. It's getting a little bit of feedback. So while they're talking, we should be on mute.
Okay, you getting feedback? Okay.
Well, I
No
just
doubt.
hear it from there. When they're talking, I hear it like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
you good? All right. So no, for real. I'm not a poet, but I just talk a lot. Yeah,
That's a T-shirt. I'm not a poet. I just talk a lot.
that's it. But bro, first things I said was like I never knew my father, right? So it's easy to be different from whatever it was that his example, because I don't even know it. Like, you know what I'm saying? All I got to do is be there, right? I don't have to be great. I just have to be there, right? Dude, but not having my father around made me conscious of like not bringing a life into the world without being here, right? It was that was like, he was my example of what a father should be, even though he wasn't around, bro. And so I made conscious decisions not to have a child, before I was able to be with the woman that I thought that I was going to be able to raise this child with, like, forever. But life don't happen that way, right? So I just like, it's something you said in that poem that made me really think about, like, and some influence mentioned about not being wanted, right? Somebody, just the idea of someone not wanting you. Like, this dude helped create me. So maybe that's why and I was thinking when he said that, I was thinking like, I never asked my mom about who he was. I never asked where he's from or what he looked like, or was he tall? Was he hairy? Was he muscular? I never asked, because the idea of me asking and hearing the rejection was worse than not having him around. Like, I did not want her to say to me, yo, he chose to walk away from us because you were a burden. Like, I didn't know I didn't even know, I didn't want to hear it. Like, so I didn't ask. And I never even thought about that until just now, man. It's crazy. Like, I never thought about, yo, maybe I didn't ask about him because the pain of hearing why he walked away. The answer might be crazy. But for my daughter, I go hard. She's all the way down south, man. Like, you know what I mean? But I'm trying to, like, what was it, last month, right? We had the incident where, she was at the store and her car didn't work. And I'm like, yo, and I'm on the phone like, yo, don't ever let anybody I got you. Just call me. Like I'm panicking, like, because I had nobody to panic for me, right? Nobody worried. No, let me scratch that. My grandfather, my grandmother, I had family, but I'm talking about the man that was supposed to be there, like that I thought was supposed to be there, as an example of what a man should be, didn't worry about my survival in a world that he knew hated black men. Like, let's just be, and I don't want to make it racial, but we're under attack as black men. And this man, for everything that he went through, he left me in a world to fend for myself, man. So I stay with my daughter as best as I can. I stay with her as best as I can to not be him.
I think the bugged out part about this
is real. It starts with just being present, man. Just be present. Chief,
I think the bugged out part about this.
No, I'm sorry.
No.
You all right?
No, what were you saying? No, I'm good. I was
just going in, just keeping it going with the question. Before I started my poem, how do you feel you're different from the man that you came from?
I was gonna say, I think the real bugged out part about this is a lot of us share very similar stories, man. Like, I'm listening to you gentlemen speak, and I could be sitting in your chair saying the same thing. Like, I've said this to a few people before, but like, up until maybe within the past 3 months, I never asked those questions either. On my podcast, we have a podcast called All Black Men Need Therapy, and I realized how severe my daddy issues were in talking to my homies, and I started to see a therapist, and she recommended I speak to my mom about it. And so we had her on and we talked about it. But like, in so many words, not in so many words, like, I asked my father straight up and down. First of all, I met him when I was 31 years old. And in conversation with him, I was always taught, respect thy mother and thy father, honor thy mother and thy father. So I made him dinner. We had a conversation like, why weren't you there? And his words were, I wasn't around because I told your mother not to have you. Now, if that don't punch you in the face, then I don't know what will. You know what I'm saying? So for me, with him not being around, I think even as when I realized, I don't know when it happened, but I could be a father, that's all I ever wanted to be. Like, I wanted to be what he wasn't. And that's just plain and simple. So we differ on the fact that, as simple as you guys put it, like, he wasn't there and he still isn't. And the crazy part is he has other children. He's there for them. So I'm the black sheep. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's just about being what he wasn't. Everything he wasn't, from top to bottom. As cliche as it sounds, it's about, it's not about the present, it's about being present. And that's what I try to be. Like, I spend my days, like, it's literally like dropping my son off at softball, taking my daughter to gymnastics, going back to my son up from gymnastics, going back to my daughter from my son up from baseball, pick my daughter up at gymnastics, drop my daughter off at softball. Like, it's just, I'm soccer momming out here, but it's exactly what I want it to be for my kids, man, because it's something that they'll never forget. And In terms of him, it's just, again, like you guys, man, I want it to be different. And it's crazy because I have friends who are in the same situation, but they don't want to have children because of that. They fear they're going to be like their dad, so they don't want to have kids. I'm thankful that in our particular shoes, we've gone through that and it's made us want to do and be better. So shout out to you fellas, man.
That's real. Shout outs to you. I want to give Arnell opportunity to answer the question, just from your end.
All right. So for me,
Tell us
I
your dad
was
was around, man. Give us a good story. Tell us your dad was around and he held you down. Like, give us that one, man. Come on.
well. What I'm gonna say is I lived with my dad until I was 14. However, I'm not like him in the sense that I'm not a pedophile. Um, my father raped my sisters. Quite a few of my sisters. I thought it was just two of them, but he raped a few more. So in that respect, definitely not like the old man. I respect women. I respect their, I respect them. Period. So our values are different. Um, Definitely, he was sick. He had to be sick to do that to his own kids because I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine that. It just doesn't compute. It's not something that. It just doesn't seem realistic that I would be able to do something like that. And for him to disappoint me like that, disappoint my sisters, the whole family, hurt us. So I definitely made that decision from earlier on that I would never ever be like that. Now, in a sense, that kind of hurt me as well because it kind of stopped me somehow from being as affectionate as I wanted to be with my first daughter. Um, it was business as usual. Yes, I'm going to be there. I'm going to provide and things like that. A little hug here and there, but and I do, I love you. As I did say that, but as far as a whole lot of contact, I kept the physical contact to a minimum at time. At first because I just felt like, oh, I'm gonna be like my father. They're gonna see me as being like my father if I hug my daughter too tight and stuff like that. So that kind of hurt me the first few years because I was always thinking. You can't be like him. You can't be like him. You're not like him, and so forth. And there was never any desire, and for children. You know what I'm saying? So that difference, the fact that we lived together for 14 years, but I can't remember once where we did anything together. I went to a bar once with him, and he was showing me off, saying, "This is my son. This is my son," and so forth. But he's bragging. He's seemingly proud of me. Seemingly, I'm the shit. But at home, it's a different story. I get beaten almost to death because it was too dark and I was scared to go change the water for the dogs. So, I was beaten to a pulp. And so that's one of the other reasons why I don't hit my kids. Like I said, I hit my 31-year-old daughter 3 times and I could count that. You know what I'm saying? The 3 times. So actually, was it twice? Twice. So the violence, as far as having violence towards my kids, definitely in the back of my mind all the time. No, you can't just go around beating up on them. So I sit my kids down, I talk to them, I reason with them. That's something that was never done to me in my household with my father. So in that sense, I'm proud of the fact that I could communicate with my kids to try and get them to, correct whatever behavior instead of just the first thing I want to do is get violent. So very different. We're very different people. My soul is very loving. I love people interactions. I want to make sure everybody is good all the time. As you can see from poetry, my interaction with just people in the poetry community, it's always love with me. It's always love, male, female, gay, straight, whatever the case might be. It's mad love. I communicate a lot with people in the community. I guess as far as my home life, I can work on communication a lot more. Um, and I know that's something I have to work on, dealing with PTSD and things like that. Not just from not just from the military, but I'm sure my interactions as well growing up and trying so hard not to be the man that my father was. So with that, I'm gonna end it there. I've been conscientious to be my own man, blaze my own path, and do things that I feel is right within my heart to make sure that my kids are straight, they're not stressed, and they don't feel like I'm overbearing, uh, any of that. So I've learned, and I try to forge my own path.
No, peace. I respect it, and I do know you have a poem that goes along with what you just talked about. Because when you first started talking, I was like, I know that poem. Now, would you like to share that poem?
I'll definitely share it. I'll
Let's
definitely
do it.
share it. All right. So here goes. Sometimes I feel like a fatherless child. Sometimes I feel like a fatherless child. Sometimes I feel like a fatherless child. A long way from home. Yo, brethren. Yo, say me did look up to you. Say me did think say you were the world. But you should I look upon my face. Yeah, that look ya. Do you see the disappointment? Do you see the pity, my boss? Do you see the scorn? How could you prey upon your own children? How could you even think of doing something that would hurt them? Something that would scar them for life or death? Do I now show you threat? You see, yo, me's a man now, me a tower over you. Should I beat you into a pulp with my fists? Should I put you in a headlock and twist me say bumbo clot twist like this? You see, me now gotta route the brethren because me is nothing like you. Them crazy, despicable, disgusting things me coulda, woulda, never do. Still, me try to understand the when, the what, the why, and the how. How could you climb in that bed with your little girls where you supposedly love and adore so much? Why did you make them grow up in such a rush? Me say, how could you rip apart which can never be be mended? You see, me did look up to you, but no, that shit's ended. So to be told, hey, you're just like your father. Me say that always, always cut through me like a knife. Because seeking pleasure in a baby girl, much less my own flesh and blood, can't even be imagined in this or any life. Time, time, time. Does that shit really heal the mind? So this is dedicated to the man, the man, the man, me say, the man. Who? Because sometimes I feel. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
I love that poem. It's, it kind of just goes with another conversation I was having. How just from being an artist and how people who listen to the work we put in, you know, a lot of our hurt and pains go into the stuff that we create, and then
True.
people are like, they're entertained, to a in a sense, by them. So it's really, if you go down that rabbit hole of thought, well, that's me anyway, the overthinker. The people entertained by the things that hurt us, the thing and experiences and whatnot. But so when I say I love that poem, I mean that respectfully.
Salute, fam. Salute, for real.
I find a lot of the certain lines in the poem relatable. Like when people who know my father, like I know who he is. Like I've met him. We've had conversation. But he has three other families. He
Mm,
has four, and these are just the ones I know of. He has four with the first family, I call him, and then he has me, and then he has two with the third family, I call him. Because when my mother found out what the situation was, she removed herself and removed me from that situation. So and I met my siblings growing up in Bridgeport. So it's just the dynamic is really interesting. But people who know him from the area, when they see me, they tell me it's like they know exactly whose child I am because I walk like him. I carry
mm.
myself he does, like I present the way he does, and it's like it's like tell me that shit. I don't want to hear that. Like um, even I think it was yesterday. My woman told me that I have his hands because yesterday was his birthday, and my sisters posted a picture of him and her kids on social media, and I'm looking at the picture, and she says that I have his hands, and I sent her a emoji of someone cutting their hand off because I'm like, I put so much energy growing up into being the complete opposite of who I know, of what I understand him to be. Like, he and I had conversation, and I didn't ask why he wasn't around. I didn't honestly, like Ty was saying, I didn't want the answer. So I left it alone. I didn't ask. But he proceeded to share. I mean, I was just having conversation, just keeping it low, keeping it, whatever it was gonna be. But then when he started giving his reasons as to why, um, it annoyed me to the point where I was no longer interested in even trying. And at that point, I was like 25 or something like that, and I had so much else going on in life. I was like, I don't have the time or the energy to deal with this. So I just like, I stopped. I let it go. Um, but I do know that I have questions that I want answered. Not about his absence or anything like that, but more so just so I have a better understanding or of where I came from, because I have a lot going on and I have a lot that I'm working on and becoming the person that I want to be, and I want to know where I came from. I honestly I want to connect more with um the people who are a part of me. You know what I'm saying? So no expectation, but I just I feel like it at this point I'm ready to just reach out and just have those conversations and meet the people and know who's who and all of that. Because I'm 38, and I want to know things. But
I don't well, just to tell you, to go back to what I think Ernell said, um, my biological father is still alive. My dad is the one who I love and cherish. He's gone, but my biological father is still alive. And he's the same one. He has me, a son who's a national poet, a nurse, entrepreneur, all these other things known. He has a daughter that's a doctor. He has another son that is an IT professional in wire layer. He has another son that works in the state. When he comes around, he's like, yo, these are my kids. When we see him, these are my kids. He's like happy as proud as a peacock. The only thing I give him credit for is picking good ass women that know how to raise their kids. That's the only thing I give him credit for. Like my mother and my brother and sister's mother, strong ass black women, the strongest black women I probably know. Um, to raise us to turn out to what we did. But it's it's crazy, man. When 100%, I didn't realize I had these many fucking daddy issues until just now. 100%. I used to always say, I didn't pay no mind. I just keep on. I keep on pushing with my life. If anybody know me, they know I do a million things going. I never stop. I never take time to think about. I can't write that poem. People ask me all the time. They give me credit for being a dope poet and all this and a dope writer. And I said, it's not an ego thing, but you haven't seen nothing yet because I haven't told you what pain was. And so that, right. I don't know, the mic is going out, but that poem I can't write. I just can't. I didn't realize how many daddy issues I had up here talking about being fathers and being men, and now realizing I haven't dealt with my own father issues yet.
Can't hear you.
It cut off.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay,
now I was
you're
just
back.
saying.
You're back.
You're back.
Okay, I was just saying that it's crazy that even when I had the conversation that you had with your dad, Chief, and I asked him about why he wasn't there, and the only thing he could do was blame my mother. Like that's the only thing he could do is blame my mother, and I'm like, yo, I don't want to hear that. So I never asked him again. He's alive today. If I see him, honor thy mother and thy father, I'll stop. I'll say what's up. I even give him the honor of calling him dad, like because I don't. My mother raised me to my grandmother raised me to be respectful. So I don't even because of them I can't even call him by his name Henry. You know what I'm saying? So but I never realized daddy issues until now.
I think it's great that we had these conversations and open the door, man. I think we tend to dive so much into our kids that we neglect the things that we're dealing with. So it's good that you recognize that. Maybe it's time to start, putting a little energy towards healing.
What's that podcast you got?
hey, Chief,
Huh?
Ty was asking about your podcast.
Oh, it's called All Black Men Need Therapy on all podcasts and forums, man. Check it out. It's pretty. I mean, we just talking about just real life stuff, man.
I'm here for it. I'm definitely down to tune in. I know, like, the way my grandparents raised me, especially my grandmother, whenever, the few times my father did pop up, right? You know, I go into the door. I know exactly who it is. So, I leave him at the door. I go check on my grandmother. Hey, he's at the door. She's like, let him in. Cool. He comes in, he'll sit down, talk, chop it up, whatever. And whenever he'd leave, what she'd always tell me is that that's your father. I would never keep him from you, you know. And when I see him in passing, if I happen to bump into him, that's how my grandmother raised me. I talk, I stop, I speak, because, manners, that's how you're supposed to move. But as far as how I address him, I don't, I use if I have to address him, I use his name. Because I feel like dad is a earned title. My son calls me dad. That's how he addresses me because I'm his dad. Father is biological, like anybody, any male can be a father because that's just how genetics works. But dad is a title earned, and I can't call somebody that who hasn't earned that title. So I just can't address him that way. It doesn't make sense to me. If anything, my grandfather was my dad. You know what I mean? So because he was the present one. Um, I wanted to ask, since we're on, bringing all these things up and just kind of just digging into the real of it, how are you guys healing through all of this? Dealing with these things. Like, what are your methods, your techniques, your thoughts, and that helps you move through?
So I don't know about healing, right? I don't know about healing, right? Because and I talk about this all the time, but I really don't know about healing because when we were born, right? When we were born, we was whole, we were complete. Through life, through life, things change, and I don't think we ever can get back to that. Well, let me speak for me. I don't think I ever could get back to that. I'll forever be pieces of a man, right? I can glue it back together and it can look whole. And it can look whole, but I don't think I don't think the healing is being complete again is not something that I see in my future, right? And and that doesn't mean I won't be good or great. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean I won't tackle and conquer things. That doesn't mean that. It just means like once a level of innocence is lost, it's just like I'm telling you, I had a pretty good conversation earlier today. Like being in love for the first time when your heart breaks, the next person they'll get your love and you can be in love with them, but it'll never be so pure and honest. No, honest is not the right word, but so pure as it was before you ever experienced heartbreak. And so although we had like I had a great grandfather. He was a good provider, right? But missing my dad, I can never make up for that. I could never make up for that. So healing, I don't know. I don't know if that's possible for me, right? In that sense, in like being complete. I don't know if that makes sense. It might be a little too much, but and even with that, like I'm gonna say this, right? Even with that, right? I dive into things, right? The person told me today, right? Like you never take care of you, right? You never honestly take care of you, take the time and do what's good for you. You take care of everything around you, and the people, your job, your friends, your community, and you dive into them, and it feels good. It feels good to do that because you feel you are making a difference. You bring in a smile, you bring in food to someone that didn't have it or whatever, right? But you run from yourself. Yeah, you run from yourself. I don't know if that
Now, what you're saying makes sense. It's kind of like we put so much energy into all the other things, the things we care about, the things we're passionate about, and not necessarily focusing on dealing with the things that we got going on inside. Because it's like a distraction, if you will. If that sounds like I'm making sense. You want to touch on that a little bit as far as how you're working with the healing?
Healing. I'm better at healing other people. I'm better at making young people better. I'm better at making my siblings better. I'm better at solving their problems. I'm better at solving their financial problems. I'm better at fixing anything that's wrong for my mother. I'm better at fixing everything wrong with my children. I don't know what healing means for myself because I haven't took the time to find out what was actually broken. So I don't know what actually Alicia told me one day that I needed to slow down about 2 years ago. She told me I needed to slow down and pay attention to myself and to take care of myself, and I still haven't done that yet. Yeah, I don't know what healing looks like for myself. I don't. As much as I heal everybody else, as much as I do therapy for everybody else, I have an entire curriculum that I have built on social and emotional learning. I could fix you. I don't know what's, you know.
No, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so I've been over here like, first of all, I just want to celebrate every one of y'all for your vulnerability tonight. There's not a huge amount of people here, but everybody that hears and sees this is so powerful. So I want to, first of all, congratulate each one of you for your vulnerability and your honesty. On the subject of healing, because I am I am immersed in it every day. I am working toward my own healing, and I feel like we are supposed to spend the majority of our time doing that because we have to unlearn everything that we've been taught. This goes for men, this goes for women, this goes for the human race. As men, I think it is of the utmost importance, and as a woman to you men, I said it to you, Influence, I say it to every man that I respect, admire, and love. The reason why your healing is necessary is because you are our leaders, you are our protectors. I see everyone on this panel as a leader, a protector, somebody that is important to the community that I know and beyond. The reason why you have to slow down, and I am telling you, this is not a suggestion. I'm out of love for every one of y'all. I am telling you, learn what healing is for you, because everything that you put out will be a million times better when you yourself are healed, because I know the syndrome of pouring yourself out. I did it. I think so many people know that story. You pour yourself out because it does make you feel better, because you feel hollow inside. So if you give to other people, that's something, right? But if you actually take the time to examine the shit that you are carrying, and it doesn't feel good, I'm going to be completely honest. It is not fun. It doesn't feel good, none of that. But the moment you dig in and you start to heal that, you open up a whole nother realm of yourself that then will not only help those other people, but you will triple, quadruple, you multiply the work that you put into the world. This curriculum you created, imagine the truth and authenticity in that when it's coming from a healed space. The reason why you've gone through the experiences that you've gone through is because you had to in order to be able to teach them. So you've mastered that. You know struggle, you know adversity. When you get through that, what you can put as men into this world, I'm telling you, I cannot. I just want to congratulate you guys, and I want to encourage you to heal in whatever way that is to you. It might not be therapy. You know, therapy is not for everybody. I do believe in therapy. I myself have a therapist and probably will for the rest of my life. And I'm good most days. But I think it's necessary. And I think just facing your stuff, whatever it is going to make the world that much better. And as women, we need y'all to be healed. We need to help in healing each other. And so I could say a million more things, but I just wanted to congratulate y'all for your vulnerability, for your honesty, for speaking your truths. If you don't know what it is, then you don't know what it is. That's your truth. But I do encourage you to figure out what that is for you. And I'm here. If anybody wants to talk to me, I'll tell you all about my shit. I have no problem with it. So that's that. That's all I got to say. I just wanted to say congratulations to you guys for speaking your truth and being vulnerable tonight. Thank you.
Nice. Dope.
Thank you. Thank you. I just got a message from Rain. So Rain says, I absolutely appreciate each of you for the men you are. The work y'all do, pay it forward, and I really want y'all to know that y'all are necessary and appreciated. Thank you all for your vulnerability. That's from Obsidian Rain.
Enough love. Enough love. For real. Thank you, sis.
Yeah, man. Well, it looks like y'all got any. I know y'all got some poems you want. I mean, we got time for a poem. We got time for a poem.
Well, this is one of me and that I wrote originally for me, and then me and Chief turned it into a group piece, and then I turned it back into an individual piece. It's on YouTube. You can find it. It's called Influence Braiding Hair. Hope I can remember because my mind is everywhere right now. When you have a daughter, braiding hair isn't just braiding hair. It's a process. Wash. Keep her thoughts clean to help bring up the danger for the world. Condition. To recondition her roots so she realizes she's not a black, broken, brittle piece of herself. Blow dry. Medium to low heat. Protect the history of her roots. Seal in your lessons. You see, this is the process because these lying relaxers will rip her from her culture like native tongues are ripped from her mouth. You see, when men have daughters, we hear, you're going to reap what you sow. I mean, what goes around comes around. So I part their hair straight to continue the path of angels sleeping in the nappy-headed roots. Because equality can't be boxed in the box braid. So I grease up with black gospel verses putting the Holy Ghost in my combs. Because ethnic roots are blessed with trials and tribulations. Like when white counselors told my daughter that she can only choose some community colleges. The universities showed her the money with full-fledged educational scholarships. Braiding hair isn't just braiding hair. Style it with a spiritual connection, a beautiful three-strand trinity. Father, daughter, holy bond. Blessed be the shotgun for the prom date. This ain't just braiding hair. So I braid underhanded to hide my fears of black girl magic. Because black girls are vanishing just like black boys. They go missing like barrettes. When a Tamir Rice gets shot, everyone forgets about Rakia Boyd, Ayanna Jones, Sandra Bland. These women had fathers like me that were going to Walmart to grab period pillows, rags, sanitary napkins, tampons, and dare a motherfucker to say something. They can catch these shea buttered anointed hands. See, this is more than just braids and ponytails. These are open conversations like, Daddy, why can't I date him? Didn't you sell drugs? Like, Daddy, I think she wants to take me to the dance. These are more than just braids and ponytails. This is therapy. This is baby. I put the drugs away a long time ago because you're the only potent substance I wanted to handle. It's baby. You can choose whoever you want. Just remember that Daddy loves you. Because baby girl, your path won't be easy. You can't be tender-headed. You got to be able to handle any style. Because this world will twist, lock you up, and ban you into knots. Because it's not about braiding your hair. It's about quality time, ending daddy issues, being your shoulder, but you not needing it, unapologetically independent and showing unconditional love when this world gives you conditions. So even when my hands cramp, I will wash, dry, part, grease, twist, and braid my life around yours, because it's always been about loving you and never been about braiding your hair.
Peace, peace.
Word.
On that note, it's about that time. I want to thank the panelists, Ernell from Poets Realm,
Yes,
Florida
sir.
right now. Poets Realm with a Z. Look it up. I got to thank Influence of Life, the General, Poets Realm, Connecticut. I got to thank Ty for showing up. I appreciate you. Poets of the Round Table. I got to appreciate Chief. He had to slide out. He had another a prior engagement he had to get into, so he had to leave us a little early. But Chief, I appreciate you. And myself, Silent Quill. You can find me on that. Oh, and definitely got to shout out Latin Escape for hosting us. We appreciate you. Thank you for putting up with us. Latin Escape, Orange, Connecticut. Thank you.
Good show. Still live.